Let's talk about switches in Java. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. Today we will talk about switches and the specifications about switches instead of using different if statements and what is the benefit, pros and cons about switches. If we have a code like this, integer x equals to 45, for example, and then somewhere in the code, we want to make condition checks on different values of x. For example, if you want to say if x equals to 10, do something, then we say else if x equals to 11, do something else, and continue doing this, for example, for 12, for 13, and then we have a statement that says if anything else is happening, just do that. This is a case that we are checking a single parameter for different values. In these cases, we can use switch instead of all these if statements. The syntax is like this. We say switch on x, curly braces, case 10, colon, then we use the break keyword. We will talk about this break keyword. Then we say case 11 and break, case 12, case 13, and finally we have default, okay? And default is the last one here, so it doesn't need break. If default was on the start, you would use a break and then you wouldn't use a break on the last statement. Now, this is equivalent of these checks. However, there are few differences in these two conditions. If you take a look at the top one, each time we are going to use an if, we are evaluating the value of x once. So here we are evaluating the x, here we are evaluating the x, here we are evaluating the x, here we are evaluating the x. However, on the switch, we are evaluating the expression here being x only once and instead of 4 times. Then when we got the evaluation, we fall into the switch case and we just compare our result of evaluation with different values. Finally, if we don't find any cases, we fall back to the default state. Now, what is the meaning of break here? Break means that whatever we were doing in this case, break out of it. So for example, if the x is equal to 10, we fall into this case, we do whatever we are coding between the case and the break. And when we see the break, we will jump out of the case 10. And because x was 10, we jump out of the switch statement completely. And that's the beauty of switch. However, some people, especially in C#, argue that if the statements are faster compared to switch. Now, don't make a mistake. We are talking about nanoseconds here. And those people who are arguing about the speed here are the people who are working on programs that really use milliseconds and nanoseconds to their benefits. Not any normal Windows application, no, but maybe again programming on Unity can use these optimizations because, for example, it is doing it on a navigation agent. Okay, so it's critical to be fast enough so that our, I don't know, pathfinding algorithm works faster. However, in normal cases, you won't notice any difference between these if statements and the switch. However, if you use the return keyword, we will talk about it later, and then you won't need this else in these conditions. Some people say that this situation is even faster than any other if statement. Remember, I removed the else because the code that you would write here is equivalent of the else statement. Again, some people argue that this is faster than switch. They are talking again about C#. C# has a compiler that is behaving a little bit different than Java. In Java, no matter what you are doing with these if statements, either you're returning or you are using if else if, still you're evaluating the x at least more than once when you hit the second if. However, in switch, you are evaluating the x only once. So if we are talking about nanoseconds here, again, the switch is faster in Java compared to C Sharp. So if you ever saw that some people say that, hey, ifs are faster than switch, yes, they are talking about C Sharp, not Java. So all we are doing here, we are comparing a value with an expression. And that's it basically. There is nothing more into the switch. So if you want to keep something as an example, just use this. In this case, x is 0, so it won't fall into 10, it won't fall into 11, 12, 13. So by default, it will fall here. And whatever code you write down below the default statement will execute. There is nothing more in switch. In the next video, we will come back and talk about loops. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.